All right, and we're going. Welcome everybody to the Hooked on Football podcast, where we discuss all things football. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at week one action. Crazy week to kick off the college football season. We're gonna be looking at TCU, Colorado. Maybe looking at a little bit of the games from Thursday. So we're gonna be trying. There's a lot of games here to break down, but we're gonna be trying to reach it all here. So first one, I mean, we're just gonna hop right into it. The game everybody's talking about, Colorado, TCU. This one, I wasn't able to watch too many games this week, but I was able to watch the beginning of Colorado TCU, and it was one of those games where I turned on the TV and I believe that TCU got the ball first. I want to say Colorado stopped them, but when Colorado got the ball, it was one of those games I was like, Jesus, I think Colorado's for real. So I hopped in on the money line. I got it for right after Colorado scored. I think it was for half of what it was. It was plus 800 earlier that morning. I got in on it for plus 400. I tried to text Michael and my dad about getting in on it. I don't think did you ever get in on that?
Nope, I didn't get in on that game at all. I didn't end up touching it.
Yeah, but it was just the way they were moving the football. They were starting plays before TCU's linemen were even down. Just not at all what I was expecting. I mean, of course, you had the hype from Deion Sanders. He was hyping his team up, but I was kind of like, whatever. I think they're gonna have some talent, but I think they're gonna struggle, but not nearly excel the way they excelled on Saturday morning. Were you gonna jump in there?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say I don't think anyone really knew what to expect coming into the season. There was just so much uncertainty. No one had more transfers. No one had more roster turnover. And so no one really knew what to expect coming into the game. And they were impressive. I would say this, because they've been discussed nonstop for the last 48 hours, but obviously they were really good offensively. Shadeur, that's how you say his name, right? Shadeur Sanders, yeah. Deion's son he played incredible.
Yeah.
Ton of great skill players. Travis Hunter played 120 snaps or something like that in total, and in 100+ degree heat that day, playing receiver and cornerback too, two positions where he's basically out on the field just running wind sprints the whole game.
Yeah,
just insanity that he did that. Here's the only no, what were you gonna say?
I think that's incredible. Probably one of the most incredible feats you could probably say for college football. I mean, if you look back,
yeah.
But I don't know how sustainable that's going to be for him to play 130 snaps like that. I mean, I know he's just incredible athlete, but
yeah, I kind of had that thought too.
That's going to take a toll.
Yeah, part of me wonders too, and I don't know. I suppose the counter, someone might say oh, he did it last year at Jackson State, but that was at Jackson State, in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is good this year. Are you really going to play him that many snaps, 120+ snaps a game, all the way through the Pac-12 schedule? And here's the thing too: Colorado plays Nebraska next week, and then I think they play Colorado State, and then I don't. Do they go to a straight Pac-12 schedule from there on?
Colorado?
Yeah, I'm just the point being is they pretty much play all Power 5 schools all year. They play one, maybe two non-Power 5 schools. So yeah, no, I agree. I had that question mark too. Here's the only thing I was going to throw in is, and again, not to discount anything Colorado did, because it's insane, the accomplishment. They were a dumpster fire of a program last year. They were terrible. Honestly, they haven't really been that good for a really long time now, pretty much since they joined the Pac-12. But I don't know that TCU is really that good. I just have to throw that out there. Their defense, we know their defense isn't good. They weren't good last year, even though they were runner-up in the national championship. Their offense was totally turned over all the way up to the offensive coordinator. They didn't have their old offensive coordinator. Basically, no one came back on offense. I'm not saying they're bad. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be like TCU sucks. TCU is going to win 2 games this year. It's not that big of a win. I think TCU will still be a pretty decent team. I just don't know is like TCU that legit. The other thing I would, you can jump in there if you want.
I think that's kind of playing devil's advocate, because I was kind of looking into that when or that was kind of in the back of my mind the whole time as I'm watching the game. I'm like, I don't know, is TCU really like? I mean, they lost, Dugan and what's his name, the wide receivers at the Chargers now. But I mean, I digged in a little bit to the pick six previews, just kind of looking at different breakdowns, and he did have the secondary trio of their quarterbacks and safeties, one of the top in college football. So there is that Shadeur Sanders was able to kind of pick that apart. I think that is kind of, sort of a. I mean, it's not like who's a top. It's not like going to be Ohio State's secondary, but it's certainly not. Right. I don't know who did. It's not like Arkansas State.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't. And again, I don't want to like say TCU's not a good team, because I don't think that's the case. I think TCU's going to end up being a pretty decent team.
Yeah.
We know defensively they're not a great team. They haven't been a great team. We know offensively they turned a lot of guys over. So, I don't know. That's just playing devil's advocate. But I'm just throwing that out there because everybody, it feels like, is on the Colorado hype train. And again, it's a cool story. Deion's super motivating, all that type of stuff. So I'm not trying to discount it, but I don't know. I just felt the need to throw that piece in there. And I'm going to be curious to see how they respond, because there was a ton of hype for Colorado coming into this game. Realistically, I mean, they knew all eyes were on them. Everyone was going to be watching them. No one knew what to expect. So the thing I'm curious to see is, I do think Deion's a good coach.
Yeah.
But every game that goes by, there's more and more film on him that's going to be out there, right?
Right.
The hype's going to wear off. Everybody gets jacked for game one, but it's harder. It gets harder, as the season goes on, things like that. So I'm curious to see what they look like as more film gets out there on them. People become more aware of their personnel. And look, they're not perfect, right? Offensively, they're super talented. There's no doubt they're going to put up big numbers all year on offense, but they get 42 points to TCU. TCU is running the ball down their throat. I didn't really think Colorado ran the ball very well. I didn't think their O-line got very good. They didn't look very good on run blocking. So anyways, it is super impressive, but that was kind of my takeaway.
Yeah, I agree with you about the O-line. I think, though, that yes, they didn't run the ball well, but I thought the pass blocking was kind of the or by the O-line went kind of low key. They weren't getting a lot of recognition.
Yeah, I think Sanders was only sacked like twice.
Yeah, you got to credit them for. I mean, anytime quarterback throws for over 300, 400 yards, that's probably a sign that the O-line did a pretty good job, which they did. TCU wasn't really getting back there a lot. But yeah, I touching on how you touched on Deion there. I was thinking about how I think the whole Deion Sanders thing, it is good for college football now that people, I mean, they're pretty much essentially must-see TV for college football.
Yeah.
I feel like people have an opinion on them now that you either love them or you hate them. That's kind of what Deion's done to the program and image. But yeah, no, I mean, there were definitely, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine. You had special teams was a little messy. I think they had they got a field goal blocked.
Yep.
They weren't great on punt returns.
I think they gave up a kick return.
Yeah. Like, wait, to the house?
I think so. Or if not to the house, I mean, really, really deep into their own territory.
Yeah. So yeah, there was definitely spots like that. But it worries me too that it's 60 something new players. I want to say 62 Deion's brought in. I mean, the transition appeared to be seamless on Saturday. I mean, barring what we just talked about. But for the most part, that's brand new roster that he brings in, and
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about the moving forward, possibly like growing pains, maybe a wall that Shadeur will hit in the future. But I mean that's probably looking forward a little too far.
Yeah. No, it is a good point. I think they brought in a lot of eyeball. That I'd actually be curious. I don't know. I'm sure the TV ratings are probably out there somewhere, but what the TV ratings were on that game. And yeah, I saw people that pretty exclusively follow the NFL that I follow on Twitter and places like that were like tuned into the Deion Sanders Colorado game. So there's no doubt. I think it's definitely good for college football.
Yeah.
And like I said, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to follow the storyline, see where they go from here. But do you want to get into the next game, that Florida State LSU game, real quick?
Yeah, we can cover that game. I'm gonna let you do majority of the breakdown here. Yesterday I was unable to watch it. I want to get caught up probably tomorrow on it, but
Yeah,
you can break it down for us.
Yeah, I'll just run through it real quick. It was obviously the weekend's premier game, number 5 versus number 8. I was super impressed with Florida State, and there was a lot of hype coming into this season regarding Florida State. They won 10 games last year. Mike Norvell, a lot of people really like Mike Norvell, a lot of big believers in him, but a lot of people were really high on LSU too. LSU was favored coming into this game, and it was being played down in Orlando. So anyways, it was honestly, it was a great game. The score, I think, ended up being a little misleading. Florida State won 45-24. But if you actually go through their stats, LSU had 460 yards total offense. Florida State had 494 yards total offense. Statistically, they were pretty dang even. I think LSU had one more turnover than what Florida State had, but really the difference in the game was probably, needless to say, was that one extra turnover. But LSU actually got stopped in the red zone twice in the first half. So in other words, came away with no points, drove all the way down the field. One of them was a goal line stand by Florida State, which, I mean, I think that was the difference in the game. Needless to say, LSU drives down there, they come away with no points. Florida State didn't have any. I mean, Florida State capitalized pretty much every time they got into LSU territory. So that was really the big difference in the game. So 45-24, really impressive from Florida State. Again, there's a lot of hype around them. They feel like one of those programs, though. They're a little Texas, Miami-like. Everybody wants to say they're back. Everybody's into Florida State every year, and then it feels like they always disappoint. But I think they could be legit this year. I mean, truly, there is a ton of talent. That defense looked solid when it needed to be. Offensively, they are really good. What's his face? The quarterback, Jordan Travis, looked awesome. I think it was Trey Benson. I think was the receiver. I think he transferred in from, I want to say Michigan. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm looking. It's Coleman. Yeah, Coleman transferred 3 touchdowns receiving. He transferred in from Michigan State. I was looking at Trey Benson, the running back.
What's Coleman? Mel Tucker has to be watching that.
Dude, he looked awesome. He was the go-to guy. He looked freaking awesome week 1. Yeah. So I was really impressed with Florida State. I thought they looked really good, but I would throw this in there. As good as they looked, and I thought they probably were the better team, or they were definitely the better team, I still think LSU's pretty good. You go back, you replay that game. Again, Jane Daniels threw for 347 yards and a touchdown. He ran for 64 yards. It was just a couple big pivotal stops by the Florida State defense. But I wouldn't sleep on LSU. Like I said, that score, if you didn't really watch the game and you just looked at the score, you might look at it and go, man, Florida State kind of manhandled them. Almost doubled them up on points, but I thought that game was a little closer than it appeared. LSU had the lead at half. It was 17-14. There was just a couple key moments that swung the momentum Florida State's way. But all in all, I thought 2 really good teams. It was a little sloppy at times, but that's opening weekend.
Yeah.
But again, Florida State, super impressive. Their schedule is not very tough this year. I think they go to Clemson here in a few weeks. That'll obviously be a huge one for them, but outside of that, they really don't play anybody that would scare me. Here, let me just pull up their schedule really quick. They don't have any other ranked teams on their schedule besides going to Clemson in a few weeks.
Wow.
That's it. They go to Florida the final week of the year. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Florida State's gonna be really good, but again, I'd finish. I still think LSU is good. I wouldn't take that score and look at it and go, "Oh, LSU's good." Jane Daniels looked really awesome at times last night. I still think they're really good. I just think Florida State is like playoff caliber good. I think they probably will be a playoff team this year, unless something just freaking Jordan Travis gets hurt or something insane. I think if that team stays healthy, they're loaded with talent. Probably the only thing keep an eye out: stupid penalties. They had a bunch of stupid penalties in the first half. Kind of characteristic. We talked about Florida on the last podcast. Sometimes there's certain teams that it's kind of their MO. They get a little sloppy on discipline. There was a little bit of that with Florida State. I thought in the first half, they just had some dumb penalties. They ended up with 7 for 64 yards, which was twice what LSU had. But yeah, outside of that, they're loaded with talent. They're going to be good.
Yeah. And it seems like that's something Mike Norvell he's working on. He's kind of brought to Florida State, which is discipline, something that they've struggled with. But moving on, though, to something different here. I want to go over just maybe briefly a couple different. I don't think the game was enough to really touch on because there's a lot of blowouts, but maybe some quarterback performances from week one. I wanted to get into the first one, Washington, Michael Penix in specific. For some reason there was a narrative going around. I heard a couple of sources say that Penix had a slow start to the day, but he improved like the second half, which just wasn't true. He came out on fire, throwing 264 yards in the first half. He had 4 touchdowns. So I don't understand that narrative there. I know his QBR was, I have the QBRs up here, was 91.3. I didn't watch the second half, but I'm guessing with the final score being 56-19, probably Kalen DeBoer over there probably slowed him down a little bit. But certainly a solid performance from him over there at Washington. Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma had himself a great day. He had a QBR rating of 97.1, which was good enough for third out of all the quarterbacks in week one. And I did want to I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Michael. I think I might have mentioned it to you this weekend, but you didn't have a comment on it. So I want to show you it now to get kind of your thoughts
15-yard penalty added to the end of the run. Automatic.
Arkansas State coach Coach Jones crying
after this game.
Is he actually crying?
Contest against Memphis a week from now.
He was crying on the sidelines. I'm curious to hear if you have any thoughts on that.
I mean, that's a tough look to be the head football coach and be crying. I don't know what your players are supposed to take from that. I mean, it was a brutal beatdown. There's no two ways around it. I mean, I didn't watch any of that game. I didn't have any interest in some of those teams blowing other teams out, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what your team's supposed to take. I mean, I guess you care, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I had to make sure. I kind of looked around just to make sure there wasn't any backstory to. I mean, I didn't know like maybe something happened prior or something.
Yeah,
but
right.
Nothing appears to have happened. He just was devastated by that loss, which I don't know, from a coach in a leadership position. I mean, there's certainly coaches who are more stoic, and then there's certain coaches that are more emotional. But I don't know. I don't think you let that show on the sidelines in front of the public. Like, I think that's maybe something you do in front of the team. That certainly wouldn't be my style, but I mean, to each its own. I know people would probably go about that differently, but
yeah, I'm just gonna go with maybe something happened off the field we didn't know about, and it just all culminated in that reaction. Yeah, I don't know what else to make of that. I've never seen that before.
I know he kind of has a interesting rep. There was, just looking on Twitter, there was people talking about it and some pretty opinionated opinions on it. But because I know he's been at Tennessee, and then he was with Nick Saban at Alabama, so he's been around the block a little bit. He's not a new name at all, but yeah, I just wanted to. That was definitely interesting moment of week 1. But another quarterback too, though, staying on the topic, Sam Hartman, he had another solid week. I mean, they're playing an FCS school, Tennessee State. But I mean, what more can you ask out of them? They score 56 points, hold Tennessee State to 3. Pretty solid. While Sam Hartman, he finishes with the QB rating of 95.9. So pretty good day for him. Caleb Williams, I know he had another. I don't know if it was 300. I think he was close, but he finished with a QB rating of 93.7. Were you able to see any highlights
USC?
Or, stats from them?
I was just trying to pull up their. No, I didn't watch because I mean, didn't they play someone terrible?
Nevada. Nevada.
Yeah, he threw for 319 yards and 5 touchdowns. So big day at the office, but yeah, I mean, what do you take from beating Nevada?
Yeah. DJU out Oregon State. I mean, they looked very good. I saw a clip. I wish I had it where he's sitting in the pocket for, it's kind of gone viral now, like 8 seconds to make a throw. He finished with 92.9 QB rating. Oregon State also, though, to stay on that real quick, they the final was 42-14 against
17.
Oh,
42-17.
Yeah, you're right. And I want to say last week USC allowed 28 points.
Yeah, I was just going to pull that up really quick.
30. It was pushing 30 for sure. So Oregon State showed they could have a little better defense. I mean, you could make the argument, they had Oregon State had film now on San Jose State. They knew what to do, but
I just throw out USC gave up 28 points and basically 400 yards total offense. Oregon State gave up 17 points and 280 yards total offense, for what it's worth.
Okay. But actually, looking at my list, actually number 2, which I don't know anything about, I need to look more into this. Number 2 QB rating was Connor Wiegman. I'm not sure I'm saying that, out of Texas A&M. He had a QB rating of 97.2 in a 52-10 win against I want to say New Mexico, UNM. That was one that was kind of surprising. I just saw that now, so I have to look into that. I mean, it is tough to look into these games where teams are playing borderline FCS schools, but
yeah,
I mean, 97.2, that's definitely solid. But another section we wanted to get into was some big time schools: Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State,
Alabama.
Those big time schools had some new QBs starting for them. Georgia, name just escaped me. Can't remember his name.
Carson Beck.
What's his name?
Carson Beck.
That's right. Ohio State. Yeah, help me out.
Georgia was Carson Beck. Ohio State was Kyle McCord. Penn State's Drew Aller. And then Alabama had Jalen Milroe. Those are your 4 new quarterbacks. I'll just jump in here quick with my 2 cents. I don't really take much from. So Carson Beck in Georgia won 48-7. He threw for 294 yards and a touchdown. He played, I mean, They played freaking Tennessee Martin, Skyhawks or something. Never even heard of them. So I mean, what can you really take from a game like that? Jalen Milroe at Alabama. He had a good day. Threw for 194 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ran for about 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. But, Middle Tennessee, again, what can you really take? Alabama plays Texas this week, so we'll find way more. We'll find out way more about Jalen Milroe then. Drew Aller at Penn State. I did watch. So I didn't watch Georgia and Alabama. I just don't have any interest in watching those teams beat the crap out of FCS caliber schools. I think Georgia might have actually played. Tennessee Martin might be an FCS school. Apologies, Tennessee Martin, if they're not actually FCS, but Drew Aller, I did watch him play West Virginia. That was the NBC nightcap, which I know you were kind of out of town, so I don't know if you got to see any of that. NBC put on good coverage. That was a fun game to watch. I hadn't watched a evening college football game on NBC. Maybe Notre Dame's done it a couple times because they have that deal with NBC, but the Big Ten's on NBC this year, and they did a good job with it. But I thought Drew Aller looked really good. I know West Virginia is not a great team, but they are a Power 5 team, and I know expectations are low for them, and he's good. He throws a good ball. He looked really confident. He threw for 325 yards, 3 touchdowns. I was really impressed with Drew Aller. I thought of the 4 new quarterbacks for these big schools, I thought he looked the best going against the best caliber of competition too. So was really impressed with him. And then to me, I thought easily the worst performance of the day. The biggest red flag, something to really keep an eye on, is Ohio State. So Kyle McCord got the start for them. 20 of 33, 239 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. So, I mean, you hear those stats, right? And it's like, well, that's not terrible, right? 239 yards, 20 for 33. Keep in mind, he's throwing to like the best wide receiving core in the country.
Yeah.
Didn't throw for a single touchdown. Indiana, expectations are very low for Indiana this year. No one expects Indiana to be very good. One of the worst teams in the Big Ten. Ohio State only put up 23 points. And just kind of going through Ohio State's offense in general, only 380 yards of total offense, which, again, we're just so accustomed to Ohio State always having these big offenses. Quarterbacks throw for tons of yards, skill players galore. And I still think they do have some good skill players. I guess none of the running backs really had crazy good days, but I don't know. I thought McCord was the shakiest, in my opinion, of all of them. And I don't know, maybe chalk it up. First game, they were on the road at Indiana. Maybe that plays into it. I'm sure he will get better week to week, but I think there's a little bit of room for concern there. I didn't really think he looked very good. They brought in Devin Brown, his backup, who wears number 33, by the way. Really throws you off when he comes in. 1 for 3.
Quarterback?
Yeah, he wears 33 at quarterback.
At Ohio State.
Yeah. It really throws you off. Like, I thought for a second I had to I thought maybe they were like Wildcat.
Yeah.
He was 1 for 3, -2 yards. I mean, obviously he didn't really do a whole lot when he came in the game, but I'm just saying something to keep an eye on. I think there's room for concern with Ohio State and their new quarterback.
That definitely has to be concerning with Notre Dame slowly approaching.
Yeah. That game is
2 weeks away.
Yeah. I think Ohio State's got 2 more games. Let's just take a quick look at who they play to get warmed up for that. Well, they got a good schedule to get warmed up. Youngstown State is at home next week, so looks like a good game to put up some stats.
Get some confidence.
And then Western Kentucky goes to the Horseshoe. And
so it's 2 weeks?
Oh yeah, 3 weeks. It's like 3 weeks out. September 23rd is when the game is.
Okay.
So they have 2 more games, and then they'll play Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Okay. That's gonna be a massive game. That's gonna be such a big game. So yeah, they got time. They're gonna look better. He's gonna get better. But I'm just saying, week 1, it was shaky.
Yeah.
He was none too impressive week 1. There's, like I said, I can't remember last time Ohio State had a bad quarterback, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's definitely the shakiest quarterback we've seen from Ohio State in a long time.
Which is surprising that they didn't do something about that in the offseason.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think it'd be that hard for Ohio State to get a quarterback to come out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. Maybe Ohio State fans, if they're watching, are getting pissed as hell. Listen to us crap all. I'm not trying to say I'm crapping all over him. Again, I said he had an okay game, but I don't know. I watched the game with an Ohio State fan, to be fair, and he was pretty. He told me that he thinks he's going to be fine, and again, he probably will be fine. It's Ohio State, and they've had, like you said, they've had a lot of time to watch him play, and if it was really an issue, they probably would have brought someone in, but it just wasn't very impressive week one. Yeah. That's all I'll say.
And to be fair, it is like what we said with West Virginia. It is a Power 5 school, maybe not the highest quality Power 5 school, but I mean, at the end of the day, any Power 5 school can upset another Power 5 school.
Yeah, it was on the road too.
You look at Georgia, Missouri. I mean, even though that happened in the middle towards the end of the season, that was a very close game. In Indiana, certainly it was at Indiana. I mean, probably not known for a hard place to play, but you got Tom Allen, who his job's kind of on the line this year.
It is, yeah.
I'm sure he's doing whatever he can to get his players up and motivated.
Yeah. Just throw this out though. If you thought that if they had any trouble on the road and they thought Indiana's defense was even sort of good, that's going to spell trouble when they Notre Dame's going to be twice as tough of a place to play. At night. South Bend's going to be going nuts for that game here in a few weeks. And that Notre Dame defense is freaking good. Like, they've given up a total of 6 points in 2 games. And I know the competition hasn't been very good, but still, it's going to be a much better defense than what they saw against Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably right. But anyway, in closing here, I thought we could touch on 2 more games. So maybe not the most followed games for college football, but we are from Iowa, so we're going to give a quick recap on starting out with Iowa versus Utah State. I was able to catch the beginning of that game. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, I ended up watching most of the Iowa game.
Okay.
I watched it back.
Okay. Well, I was just going to do a quick part on I saw the beginning of it. Caleb Johnson, he came out with a close to 40-yard kick return. And then Cade McNamara, first play, comes down, throws a bomb, touchdown. I mean, they came out kind of looking like new improved Hawkeye team. Half goes on, quarter goes on, slowly kind of revert back to Iowa ways. I think Iowa kind of remembered their Iowa and finished with a final score 24-14, which I think is not that's definitely not a convincing win against a team like Utah State. I know they play in the Mountain West, which Mountain West isn't complete chumpers, but they're no Power 5 school. And I want to say they had 4 wins last year, Utah State. So
I don't know. That could be right.
I don't know the future. I mean, so we'll be breaking down Iowa State next week. It's gonna be a big game coming up. But I don't know. Their future. I don't know. In my opinion, didn't look good. My first glance watching the film.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're pretty much right. If you're an Iowa fan, it was same story, different year. I mean, it was a little improved, to be fair. Like, I think last year, didn't they win their home opener like 7-6? A field goal and 2 safeties, and then they
South Dakota State
beat South Dakota State and made 2 field goals. So, I mean, to be fair, it's an improvement off that, right? But I mean, Utah State had 329 yards total offense. Iowa had 284. So Utah State out earned them by 50 yards total offense, essentially. I don't know. The offense was a little improved. There was an interesting stat during the broadcast. So Iowa, that opening drive touchdown pass, that was their first opening drive touchdown pass to start a season since 1991, which I thought was pretty crazy.
Jeez.
But I think the biggest thing for Iowa is it all comes down to Cade McNamara, right? Michigan transfer, the quarterback. I thought he played pretty well for the most part. It's pretty evident to me that he's not fully healthy. Like, we know he had that quad injury here leading into the week 1. He just started practicing within the week leading up to this game. And to me, it was pretty evident he wasn't moving. I watched a lot of it. I like Michigan, bit of a Michigan fan myself. Probably should have disclosed that when we were talking about Ohio State, but I watched a lot of Cade McNamara because the year that they turned around, the year they went to the playoff, he was their quarterback and he was really good. And it was just evident that he was not fully himself. And you can just tell sometimes with a quarterback when they don't really want to take hits. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't really matter the level, high school, college, NFL. If they're nursing something, you can just kind of feel it when they're sitting in the pocket.
Yeah, well, they don't, when they throw, they'll turn quick.
Yeah. You could just tell he was just kind of doing that. And to me, that was just a sign. They took him out kind of late in the fourth quarter. It was still 24-14, and they took him out. I mean, the game was pretty well in hand, but that's not really a score you usually take your starting quarterback out at. So I think they were just trying to be as safe as possible. So, I mean, honestly, a big chunk of the season is going to ride on his health for Iowa. If he gets hurt and has to miss games, that's going to be catastrophic for them. But if he can manage to stay healthy, I think the offense, the problem for Iowa, based off what I saw week 1, is the offense is slightly improved. It's better. It's definitely better. Like last year, which it couldn't really get worse because last year it was literally like last in Power 5, one of the worst in all of FBS. So it's better. It is improved. Cade improves them. Eric All improves them. The O-line's a little better, all that stuff. It's not considerably better, though. It's just a little better. The problem for Iowa is, to me, the defense looked a little worse than last year. I think the linebackers are a serious downgrade. I think the D-line has a little bit of work to do. The DBs look pretty good for the most part. But that, to me, is the problem with Iowa, is I felt like, you know what I mean? Last year, that defense was elite and the offense was awful. And this year, it's like the offense still isn't very good. But right now, based off week 1, I don't know if you would say that defense is elite. They might still end up being elite, but I don't know that they necessarily looked elite week 1.
Well, and I was kind of worried about that going into the season because everyone was just guaranteeing Iowa defense going to be. I mean, because it's Phil Parker, right? Not Norm.
Yeah, Phil
Parker. He's going to have elite defense, like no question. But it showed there definitely were some holes. I know Iowa was missing one of their starting cornerbacks.
Yeah,
so that did hurt a little bit. But
I think Xavier Nwamka, the 5-star safety they have, I think I heard he was a little banged up himself, wasn't at full speed. So yeah, there's some little things like that will hopefully work themselves out. But no, I don't think that defense was. I certainly don't think that defense is as good as it was last year. I don't think it will be that good again this year. So
yeah, which is a little concerning. But the final game in Iowa on Saturday, which actually is not true because there was I actually saw on Twitter there was a NAIA game in William Penn, which I believe is in Oskaloosa, and it was the final score. I was trying to get it up here because they're saying it was ironic. It was 6-2. William Penn versus Missouri Baptist, so kind of fitting for Iowa and their defense.
Yeah.
But the other noteworthy game was Iowa State UNI, and given my opinion, going into this game, I thought the season was just going to be a complete shit show for Iowa State. You have countless players with gambling issues off the field. They're missing their quarterback, their running back, or not a couple, but like an O lineman. I just thought this season was going to be a mess. So you got to give it to Matt Campbell for getting his guys together. Defense, I know offensively they didn't do much. They had I want to say it was like 37 total plays. So really wasn't a lot for, I want to say, Becht to do much. I think he was 10 for 13. 113 yards passing. But I mean, yeah, you look at, again, 37 plays. That's not horrible. The defense definitely shined, picking off UNI quarterback Theo Day 2 times, which Theo Day, I know he plays at UNI, but which I mean, that's definitely a respectable FCS program. But Theo Day, he's regarded as a NFL type guy. I know Iowa State's defense coordinator in the press conferences before the game was highly touting him. So that's definitely a bright spot for Iowa State. And the guy who did it too was Jeremiah Cooper, who he isn't even the number one on the Cyclones defense. I know he was definitely one of their better players, but Iowa State's stud is that TJ Tampa, who's 6'2", 200 pound. He's just a player. But the other bright spot I had for Iowa State, and honestly, I'm a lot more optimistic for Iowa State than I am Iowa after watching the 2 games. But their kicker, I like to touch on special teams. I know you probably have some more, because were you at this game?
I didn't go to it, but I watched the whole thing. I was
okay.
Yeah.
Chase Contreras, their field goal kicker, he drilled a 56-yarder, which I think almost set a school record.
Yeah.
But I believe this was after an extra point too. So he had a little reason to be a little nervous, but he comes down, drills a 56-yarder. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I gathered from seeing a couple highlights, reading about it a little bit. I wasn't able to see the full game though.
Yeah. No, my takeaways were Iowa State honestly looked a lot like Iowa in the home opener against UNI. So what I mean by that is Iowa's obviously notorious for playing really good defense, having rock solid special teams, and then having a crap offense. And to me, that was basically Iowa State on Saturday. UNI had almost 30 more yards of total offense than Iowa State did. The offense didn't hurt itself. They didn't turn the ball over or anything like that. So I don't think anyone's going to look at the offense, and say, oh, the offense sucked, but the offense was really not anything special. And you never know. Maybe that's partly Matt Campbell being a bit strategic. They got out to an early lead, and maybe he just simply didn't want to show his hand with Iowa coming to town this coming week. But yeah, the defense, I mean, look, this game was basically over within, 6 minutes into the first quarter. Pick 6 on UNI's first possession, which totally rattled that quarterback. UNI gets the ball back, goes 3-and-out, punts. Iowa State returns a punt to like the 15-yard line, scores a few plays later. It's 14 rip right out of the gates, and it's like everyone knows Iowa State's defense is legit. UNI just had no hope. So the game is basically over there. So, yeah, like I said, I thought it was kind of interesting because I thought Iowa State they reminded me a lot of Iowa, which was they basically won with defense and special teams, and the offense just didn't shoot itself in the foot, and they got out of there with a win. Like you said, UNI is an FCS school, so nothing to get carried away with. An FCS school still out-earned them. They had more total yards of offense than Iowa State did. So that's a bit of a concern there. But they did what they had to do. 30-9 is a pretty sound win. So I think they're happy with it. Like you said, they got really hurt in the offseason with the whole gambling probe, and they had a bunch of guys on gambling apps that shouldn't have been, and they got a bunch of starters kicked off the team. And so I think there were a lot of people down on Iowa State, didn't think Iowa State would be any good this year. And we'll see. They got a long ways to go. Again, they beat a freaking FCS school, so no need to get carried away. But I think they just looked a lot better than people thought they would. And that Rocco Brecht, or it's Becht, I don't know. I always want to throw an R in there. He looked fine. 10 of 13, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. Honestly, you read the stat line, you're like, dang, that guy must have played pretty well. And he played fine. They just didn't really ask him to do much, to be frank. He threw a lot of short passes. He did have one nice, 15, 20-yard touchdown throw. So I don't know. He played fine. I don't think he's going to be an elite quarterback. He didn't seem to have that type of skill set. He didn't really display it on Saturday, but he's fine as long as he can manage the game, not turn the ball over. Iowa State's got a good enough defense, and if special teams are going to be improved, no reason they couldn't get to 6 wins in the Big 12 based off what we saw Saturday. But again, it was an FCS school, so you don't want to get carried away. I'm just saying there were a lot of people. There were people who thought they might lose this game. They've lost to UNI before. It's an in-state game. They've lost to them twice actually in the last. So it's not unfeasible to think, Iowa State could have lost that game. So I just think people, given the circumstances around the program, I think people were pretty impressed that they came out and played as well as they did with so many new players and, so many guys being asked to step up on short notice.
Right. And yeah, we will be breaking down that game, Iowa State, next week in our video to come. Most likely probably going to be out on Wednesday. But I think that wraps it up for us tonight. Michael, do you have anything else that you wanted to get off?
No, it's just fun to have college football going again. There weren't a ton of great games this week. A lot of teams didn't really show up and play super tough competition, but fun to have the season going again. And as we really get in the swing of it, there's gonna be a lot of fun games to cover this year.
For sure.
Oh, one thing I was gonna throw just really quickly. I won't go into my power ratings. Maybe I'll save that for like Wednesday or next week, but I'm just throwing this out there. If I had to rank the number one team in my power rankings right now, Florida State. That'd be my number one team. Not saying they're going to win it all, anything like that, but crazy talent, super impressive win over LSU. That's my top team.
Yeah.
We'll see how that stands as the year goes on. But based off week one, that was easily the most impressive team to me.
Yeah, and I think it's by far the most impressive win. I know it got outshined a little bit by Colorado and TCU, but when you look at like performance and like who they're playing, I think by far Florida State had the most impressive victory. But
yeah, tons of talent on that team.
But so be on the lookout for this week. We're gonna be breaking down all things week 2 to come. I'm gonna be posting some NFL content to come to the primetime matchups. So be on the lookout for those two. I'll give you my my thoughts, my analysis, and my picks. But no, in the meantime, we appreciate you watching. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next one.